Alright, so today I'm going to show you how to do the layout for your drawings using ArchiCAD. So all of your dimensions in ArchiCAD are controlled in your first floor story setting. So we're going to go to the first floor, and we can zoom out, and we're going to come to the dimension tool right here. And we can use the dimension tool to draw our dimensions out. Now, the way that I have it set up at this moment is only in the XY direction. So I want to make sure that I have it so it's actually parallel to the surface. So what I can do is I can click and click to the 2 points that I want to have, and then I will right click and I will hit OK, and that will bring it out so it's parallel to my surface. I can do the same thing over here, right click and hit OK, and out it comes nice and parallel. And if we zoom in, I can see what my dimensions are. Now, if I go over to my layout book here on the right side in the navigator, that's where I'm actually going to do the drawings. So I click on the layout book and I can see all of this information. If you don't need something, you can get rid of it. For what we're doing in class, we're not going to be using the structural sheets or the demo plans or anything like that. So I'm going to carefully select what I don't want to get rid of and hit delete subset. Same thing down here, since we're not using section views or any details, I'm going to get rid of those. But again, be careful. If you get rid of them, it's a real pain to get them back. And I'll hit delete. Now, we'll start with our cover sheet. Okay. And we can see down here that this is just a generic master sheet that they have selected for us. If I look down here under properties, I can see a bunch of different options. So I'm going to go with the letter plane landscape because when I print these, I am going to be using letter paper. You can add text using the text tool under document. You can put your name or the title. So we'll call this Meyer. And then I will click. Now, because I've placed it on my master, it's going to show up on every sheet that I use for that master. So, I come over to my cover sheet, and I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to select the letter plane landscape. And what should have happened, we see, is my text is right there. And that's not something that I can change in this view. Now you can click and drag that information that you see there in if you want, but you don't have to. For our cover sheet, I like to use a view of my building from the 3D perspective. I think that's the easiest way to go about it. So you can orbit around and find the view that you like best, that shows your building off best. And then you're going to right click and you're going to hit Save View and Place on Layout. And it's going to hop over to the cover sheet. And then we can click, and we can see that we have a really big image. Now, if I don't want to have all this, I can click and I can adjust my frame right here to crop it down a little bit. And then to resize it, I can click and switch over to the stretch tool, and I can shrink it down to whatever size I want it to be and move it around. I'll center it up nicely. Now down here we have some text. We can just leave that be. You can see that there's a scale, but for now we're not going to worry about it. Now we come over to our floor plans, and I'm going to select my first floor plan. And generally this is going to auto update for us. Everything is predefined, so I can switch over to my plain letter landscape, and we can see I shift everything down. Now, this image that I have is way larger than I need. It is showing us our camera angles, all right? And we can see that our camera angles right now are not their at north, east, south, and west, but they are not parallel to our surfaces. If we want to make them parallel to our surfaces, we have to come back over to the first floor view. We can select a camera angle. We can click on it, and we can use the rotate tool, and we can rotate it around, just like so. We can also click and move it if we want to have it closer or further away. This is especially helpful when you have an obstruction like a hillside, and you can bring that closer, just like so. Come back over to our floor plan. We can see the camera angles have now moved. We can trim this view down, adjusting the frame. I don't need to see the camera angles. You can, but for what we're doing, I don't. And then I need to scale this down. Now, it's important that the scale that I use is consistent for everything. We can select the scale up here, and there's a bunch of predefined ones. Depending on how big your building is will depend on what scale you're using. So I found that 1/8 to 1/16 tends to be pretty good. 3/32 is a nice balance. And I can bring that in. Now we can see that this is still a bit large. So I want to shift it down once more to 1/16. And that fits in really nicely. So now my floor plan is done. If I were to make any changes to it, it would auto update. And we can see my dimensions are right there. Now if we come over to our elevations, what we do is change our master to the plain landscape or whatever paper size you were using. And then what you want to do is trim your image down. So I'm going to move it first. And we can see I've got a lot more information than I need. I will bring the frame down just to focus on the building or whatever it is you're trying to show. And we can see that I'm not parallel to the building in this elevation because I see both the south wall and the east wall. If I were to rotate my camera angle, this would also auto update. Now the scale that I used for my floor plan was 1/16, so I'd like to use that for this as well. And I can place that right there. If you want to be nice and neat about it, you can even double up on the images that you have on a page. We can look at our east elevation, and we look at our east elevation, we see that we're parallel to the wall, and that's going to give us the best profile. Just like before, switch it down, trim the view. And that menu that pops up I can access by clicking on one of the black corner points called a node. After you've done that with all of your views, the next thing we want to do is publish these sheets. In order to do that, now I know I haven't done the north or the west elevations, but in order to do that, I'm going to go over to the publisher sets. Over here, we see layouts to PDF, which is good. We see the different sheet sets that I want to use. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to hit publish, and it's going to ask me to set the properties. Now I want to create a single file. I need to name it. Naming scheme you're usually going to use is your project number _ last name first initial. The format will be PDF, and your path you need to choose. So if you're using your own computer, you save it to wherever you'd like to save stuff. I'm going to save it to my downloads and hit choose and hit OK. Now that did not actually publish it, so I got to go back again and hit publish, and it's going to go through and it's going to check off each individual sheet. Now if you haven't gone and resized a page, it's not going to resize it for you automatically, so you need to make sure that you're changing your master for each one that you want. And once it has done what it needs to do, you can open up your PDF of your layout book. And we can see here, this is nice and small, nice and small. We can see the information I typed in. All right, up here, I I don't have the, since I didn't change that, that is not going to auto update. We can see how these have changed. We can see that these two did not change. What we can see is the fact that I moved my camera angle. I'm not looking into the back of a hillside for the whole thing, just a little bit right here. And that, in a nutshell, is how you do drawings.